The car is only for family members. Walk home for 4 hours, old lady. I'm going to pick you up. It was rare for Angela to make such a suggestion, and I naively accepted it, which was my mistake. Why couldn't I have predicted that this might happen? All right. I'm on my way to pick you up. But it's already late. If I tell her to come pick me up now and she gets into an accident, that would be troubling. I obediently listened to Angela and hung up the phone. Even though I said that, there are no buses anymore, so what should I do? If I walk home as Angela said, it will indeed take about 4 hours. Looks like I have no choice but to stay at a nearby motel tonight. With that thought, I opened the map and started walking towards the motel. However, after this, I had no idea that the situation would change so dramatically. My name is Susan Smith. I'm 46 years old. I've been married to my husband, Tom, for over 10 years. Tom and I met at the company where I used to work. Right after graduating from college, I started working as an office clerk at a logistics company. I had a boring student life. I thought maybe I could live a bit more like myself once I became a working adult. I was holding on to that hope. But reality didn't go as smoothly as I hoped. At first, everyone was kind to me. If you have any trouble, feel free to talk to us. They would say things like that. Even though I had hope, it's not like I had no anxieties. I was taking advantage of the kindness of my coworkers while doing my job. But at some point, the employees started to become cold towards me. No, it wasn't just me. They began to act the same way towards my peers. Whenever I asked something, they would just say, "Think for yourself." Everyone was on edge, lashing out at those below them over trivial matters. The friendly atmosphere I felt when I first joined the company had vanished. This was the real face of the company. It didn't take long for me to realize that. At the same time, I understood that I had landed in a bad spot. Perhaps I was too dependent at times. But there should be limits. Naturally, the hope I had during my student days to live as myself did not come true. The overtime and working on holidays that were forced upon me every day. The yelling that I would hear at least once a day. All of it was stressful. Since I took a job far from my hometown, it was hard to meet up with friends. I think if I could have hung out or vented with someone, I might have led a somewhat fulfilling life. But I couldn't find the time or courage to make new friends in this new place. Before I knew it, I was just commuting between my company and home. I wanted to quit this company so badly. How many times have I thought that? But what would I do if I left the company? I don't know if there would be a job for me if I went back to my hometown. And staying in this area doesn't guarantee that I would find a job either. I wish I had the courage to take the first step, but I chose to maintain the status quo. Naturally, many of my peers who couldn't stand the job left. I could only envy them as they left. I always thought it would be nice to be on their side someday. However, one day, I had a meeting that would significantly change my life. The opportunity arose when a new client was established at the company. The person in charge there was Tom, who would later become my husband. Initially, we weren't aware of each other in that way, but after a chance to talk about personal matters, we found ourselves going out for drinks, just the two of us. For me, worn out from daily work, the time spent with Tom was healing and something I eagerly looked forward to. Half a year after getting to know each other, we started dating, and when marriage came into the picture, Tom made a confession. "Hey, I actually have a daughter. A daughter. Sorry for keeping it quiet. But I thought I needed to tell you before we get serious about marriage." It turns out, Tom had divorced a few years ago. And he had taken custody of his daughter with his ex-wife. Her name is Angela. I see. I'd be happy if you'd still consider marrying me. But if you're not okay with it, I'm totally fine with ending our relationship. Indeed, I was surprised to hear that Tom had a child. I wish he had told me a bit earlier. However, I didn't feel any anger or sadness. Instead, my desire to marry Tom grew. Sure, I'm surprised. But I can't just end our relationship. Susan! Thank you! When I shared my honest feelings, Tom's expression softened with relief. Then, the conversation led to meeting Angela. What kind of child is she? Will we get along? I couldn't wait to meet Angela while we were planning the day. Hello. The first time I met Angela, she seemed to be wary of me. Hiding behind Tom, she glared at me sharply. "Come on, say hello." "Hello." Prompted by Tom, Angela reluctantly greeted me. She must have been briefed beforehand, but it's natural for her to be cautious of a stranger suddenly coming to their home. Plus, I was also shy around strangers and often hid behind my parents when I was in elementary school. I totally understand how Angela feels. After all, on the first day we met, I couldn't really talk much with Angela. She seemed nervous. She wouldn't leave Tom's side at all. Seeing Angela like that, Tom was a bit troubled. "Come on, Angela. Don't you want to talk about anything?" "No." So definitive. "It's okay. She's just nervous. Don't worry about it." I tried to make eye contact with Angela and spoke to her as kindly as I could. Then, it seemed like her face brightened up just a bit. From then on, Angela would always come along when Tom and I met. Thanks to that, she seemed to be getting more accustomed to me. Although my job didn't allow me to travel much, I was still happy just going to the park nearby or shopping for dinner with the three of us. And then, a year later, Tom and I got married. I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker. If it meant meeting Tom, then maybe it was worth keeping up with the job I always wanted to quit. The only thing I'm grateful for in that tough job is the wonderful encounter it led to. What life would bring with Tom and Angela? I couldn't wait to see. However, my life took a major turn for the worse. Suddenly, Angela's attitude changed for the worse. "Hey, this meatloaf isn't good." "What? Store-bought foods taste better." "How could you say that?" At first, it was complaints about my cooking. "If I have to eat this, I'd rather have store meals. I don't like Susan's cooking." Angela started saying such things after Tom and I got married. Before we got married, she used to say my cooking was delicious and seemed happy eating it. Why did this suddenly happen? I was bewildered by Angela's drastic change. "You used to eat it before." "I was just enduring it before. But I've reached my limit." "Enduring it?" "I don't need this kind of meal anymore." "Oh, let's eat some snacks." Angela barely touched my food and began eating the snacks she found in the cupboard. Since she said my cooking was bad, I couldn't force her to eat it. I silently watched Angela eating the snacks. At the same time, I resolved to try harder to make tastier meals. However, Angela kept criticizing my cooking, never satisfied. "Hey! Why can you only make bad food? I want something tastier." "Would you say the same in front of Dad?" "Huh. Why are you bringing up Dad? You act all high and mighty in front of me, but you're like a little angel in front of Dad. Why is that? Do you think you can say anything to me?" I realized that my cooking wasn't really the issue. Angela simply wanted to complain to me. At first, I thought Angela was just struggling with the sudden change in her environment and taking it out on me, an outsider. But as we lived together longer, it seemed that wasn't the case. She just didn't like me. What's that supposed to mean? Seriously, I don't get it. You're not even family, what do you know about me? Not family, but... Well, it's true, isn't it? Dad and I were living happily together until you showed up. Angela left the table without really eating. I could somewhat understand Angela's feelings, but I wished she would make a little effort to meet me halfway. But maybe it was too much to ask from a young girl. I regretted not considering Angela's feelings and acting immaturely. I thought Angela would calm down eventually. I planned to patiently wait for that to happen. But my expectations were vastly misplaced. Even when Angela became a high schooler, her attitude never changed. "Susan, why do you always look so drab? Not just drab, but unattractive. It's surprising you even got married. Like, why would Dad choose someone like you to remarry? He has terrible taste." "Don't say that." "Got anything you want to say? It's the truth, right? I mean, it's totally fine that you're remarrying. I just wish you were more beautiful." Angela looked at me again and scoffed. As usual, she never showed her true self in front of Tom. "Did you go out with Mom today? Did you have fun?" "Yeah. It was super fun. Right, Susan?" "Yes, that's right." I responded with the best fake smile I could muster to Angela's question. Even when we went out together, Angela didn't want to walk beside me and would quickly go off somewhere else. The only reason she went out with me was that there was no other transportation. Even though she could have just said she wanted to do her own thing, Angela seemed eager to show off how close we were, happily sharing our memories even though there were none. Despite claiming to have fond memories, there really aren't any to speak of. I couldn't bring myself to correct her and just quietly listened to her cheerful voice. To be honest, Angela's grades were also bad. Her report card at the end of the semester showed poor grades in every subject, and her teachers commented on her poor attitude in class and daily life. She was barely avoiding repeating the year. "Angela, you need to start studying seriously. Don't cause trouble for your teachers." When I confronted her with the report card, she glared at me guiltily. "It's none of your business. Why do you even have my report card? I hid it. I found it while cleaning your room. You were cleaning my room. Don't go in there without permission. You're the one who told me to clean it." It's always a back and forth with her. She never takes responsibility for what she says. This is the worst. Honestly, having someone like you at home just kills my motivation to study. If you were gone, all my problems would be solved. Everything bad is somehow my fault, no matter how unrelated. I'm exhausted. No matter how much I try to talk to her, Angela just doesn't listen. So, I often discuss this with Tom. Again? She never listens, no matter how many times we say it. I'll talk to her again. Yeah. Thank you. When Angela was in her second year of middle school, I decided I couldn't let her say whatever she wanted anymore and talked to Tom for the first time. Naturally, Tom was surprised. But soon after, he said, "I'll talk to her." I'm sorry you had to go through that. Even though Angela had spent more time with Tom than with me, why did he believe what I said so readily? I was a bit puzzled. But later, Tom said, I was surprised by Angela's attitude too, but I couldn't believe that Susan would lie. So, I thought it was wrong to act based solely on one side's story, which made me happy. However, Angela continued her selfish behavior, ignoring what Tom said. I understand that Angela might not want to listen to her parents, but I believe her selfishness was exacerbated by the presence of my in-laws. I believe her stubbornness was fueled by the presence of her grandparents, who doted on her and listened to everything she said. Well, it's more accurate to say it was her grandmother. Her grandfather, unable to oppose her grandmother, just silently listened to her. Regardless of the reasons, the fact that her grandparents were spoiling Angela didn't change. Especially since the grandmother seemed to have disliked me from the start, she was aggressive towards me whenever Tom was not around. How could you think of marrying my son with that face? How many times was I told that when Tom stepped out? I'm sorry. You don't seem capable of housework. I could have introduced a better woman to him if he wanted to marry someone like you. Hey. Be quiet. Just stay out of it. Her grandfather tried to intervene and her grandmother snapped at him. That scene was just pitiful. Grandma, I want this. Is that all you want? Look, there are so many other types. Angela thought she could get anything she wanted if she asked her grandmother. Angela, don't be like that to Grandma. Susan, just be quiet. Don't interfere between me and Angela. Actually, can you just go away? Please leave us alone. Her grandmother, like Angela, disliked being with me. But didn't you hear? Grandma said she hates being with you. And so do I. Now, go away. Angela sneered and shooed me away with her hand. Joining in, my mother-in-law also shooed me away with a gesture. Although we would go shopping together, once we reached our destination, it became unnecessary. Feeling so miserable about being treated that way, I fled the scene. In the end, Angela and my mother-in-law's attitudes didn't improve, and time just passed by. Even after graduating high school, Angela didn't go on to further education or get a job, continuing to live a degenerate life at home. Isn't it about time you get a job or something? Are you planning to live like this every day? Shut up. I just graduated from high school, let me enjoy my freedom for a bit. Your friends who graduated at the same time as you are either in college or working, you know. I don't care about that. Just leave me alone. I know it's wrong to compare her to other kids. But I thought if I didn't, Angela would never take any action, although my hopes never reached her. However, one day, unusually, Angela approached me. Hey, I want to go to driving school. Driving school? Yeah. I want to get my license. I was happy she found something she wanted to do herself. But I couldn't immediately agree. Attending driving school would cost thousands of dollars. And we didn't have the financial leeway to afford it. After discussing with Tom, we decided Angela should earn the money herself to go to driving school. She seemed to agree, but later, I was shocked to hear her story when she came home happily holding a driving school brochure.
Grandma is paying for it. What? We agreed you would pay for it yourself.
Well, Grandma said she would pay, so. I immediately contacted my mother-in-law to discuss the situation.
What do you mean? Do you have a complaint? I gave Angela the money because she said she wanted to attend driving school. We had our own agreement. At least you could have told us. Oh, be quiet. I paid because I wanted to. I don't care about your arrangements. And you know, as a parent, you should provide money for your child. How stingy.
My mother-in-law didn't really listen to me and ended the call after stating her piece. Tom also confronted his mother, but since the money was already paid, it was a done deal, and he couldn't get her to take him seriously. In the end, Angela continued attending driving school and somehow managed to get her license. Later on, she even got a car as a present from her grandparents. Of course, we were clueless. They had completed the contract without us knowing. Angela probably reached out to her grandmother from the start, thinking we'd just tell her to figure it out herself. No matter how much we protest, what's paid is paid, as my mother-in-law said. Tom and I were powerless in the end. A year after Angela got her license, I had an unavoidable errand back in my hometown. Tom would drive me to the airport, but I had to return on my own. Considering the airport's location, getting back by foot or taxi was challenging, so I was thinking of changing the flight time or booking a nearby hotel. But then, Angela offered to pick me up. I was initially suspicious, but I figured she wouldn't play around with driving, and saving on hotel costs would be nice. Thanks. I gratefully accepted Angela's offer. A month later, I returned from my hometown and looked for Angela's car. But I couldn't find it anywhere. Maybe she parked in a different spot. I immediately called Angela.
Angela? Where are you? I can't find you.
Oh, I'm at home.
What? Home? Why?
The car is only for family members. Walk home for 4 hours, old lady. I couldn't believe my ears. At the same time, I regretted naively accepting Angela's unusual offer to pick me up. Why couldn't I predict this might happen? But it's already late. If I ask to be picked up now and something happens, that would be trouble. All right. I obediently listened to Angela and hung up the phone. But by now, the buses to my house have stopped, and I have no way to get home. Walking for 4 hours is obviously not an option. I guess I'll have to stay at a motel tonight. I tried calling Tom but got no response. Then I remembered he was working late and sent him a message about staying at a motel as Angela suggested. I found the nearest motel on the map and started walking towards it. 10 minutes into my walk, Tom called.
Susan! Where are you? Are you okay?
He must have seen the message. Tom sounded pretty upset.
I'm done with work. I'm coming to pick you up.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
But,
look, it's late, right? I'd be sad if something happened to you. Tom, who was agitated, seemed to calm down after hearing my words.
All right, be careful, okay? I'll give Angela a serious talking to.
Thank you. After the call, I resumed my walk to the motel, checking the map. 30 minutes later, I got another call. This time it was from Angela, not Tom. I didn't know what she wanted, but I had no energy to talk to her right now. I continued walking while ignoring the calls, but she kept calling multiple times without giving up. Feeling it was too persistent, I finally answered the phone.
Hello? Hey. Why did you tell Dad?
What?
That I didn't go to pick you up.
Obviously, I would contact someone since I couldn't get home. And from Tom's perspective, it would be strange that Angela, who was supposed to be at the airport, was at home. What was she planning to explain?
No, I just contacted him because I couldn't get home. You didn't have to blame it on me.
Did you see the message? I only sent the truth.
That you didn't want to let me in the car and told me to walk home for 4 hours. Ugh. That's infuriating. What's wrong with you? Just walk home quietly.
I could hear Angela hitting a cushion or something on the other end of the phone. She must be really angry. But all of this was brought on by Angela herself.
People normally mention it, don't they?
You wouldn't?
My point is irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant. You always shift the blame to others, insisting you're not at fault.
Shut up. What is it with you? Seriously.
It seemed my words didn't reach her. Angela just hung up the phone. It was clear she called me out of anger after being scolded by Tom. I wondered what kind of face Angela would have when we met the next day. I was both scared and curious. The next day, after leaving the motel, I took the bus home. When I entered with my key, a clearly flustered Tom appeared.
I'm home.
What about work?
I took a day off. I was worried about Susan.
You didn't have to. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. Also, I think we need to have a talk, all three of us, including Angela.
Tom took the bags I was carrying and went into the living room. I followed him into the living room. There, Angela was sitting, looking sullen and downcast. Encouraged by Tom, I sat down in front of Angela.
Why did you do that?
The conversation began. But Angela was just defiant against Tom's words.
What does it matter? I mean, she could have just walked home. Then, this wouldn't have happened. Who are you to say that? Weren't you the one who offered to pick up Mom in the first place? Do you understand that? I got it, but it became a hassle. Do you think that's a valid reason? You're really selfish.
I had never seen Tom so angry before.
But. No buts.
Angela made excuses, and Tom got angry at her. The conversation was going nowhere. Suddenly, Angela looked at me and started saying something shocking.
Why am I the only one being blamed? Susan did bad things too.
Bad things? Like what exactly?
Getting angry at me, telling Dad about me. That's bad? What are you thinking? Don't you realize that everything was said for your sake?
So immature. It's as if I was the one who was arbitrarily angry.
You know. I mean, isn't it unfair if it's just me?
Call Grandma and Grandpa too.
What? What are you talking about? Even if they come, what you did won't change. Besides, it would only make them worried. If you're going to call me selfish, don't Grandma and Grandpa have some responsibility too? It's their coddling that led to this, right?
I can't understand Angela anymore. What is she even saying? That her behavior is the fault of her indulgent grandparents. Her continuous blame shifting left me with a headache. Suddenly, an idea came to me. Why not call the two of them here and settle this once and for all? I knew it would complicate matters. But we couldn't let Angela and the in-laws do as they pleased forever. Besides, there was another person. Who wants to resolve this situation besides me?
We can't do that. Besides, you are.
It's okay.
Let's try contacting them. Really? Yay!
Tom was surprised by my words.
But it's fine. Look, Angela is also saying this, right?
With some persuasion from me, Tom reluctantly agreed to call the in-laws. Luckily, they arrived at the house quickly.
What's happened?
Grandma. You see. Angela cozied up to her grandmother in a cajoling tone. And started explaining. After hearing everything, the grandmother turned to me with an intense glare.
It's exactly as Angela says. You should have just walked home quietly for 4 hours. Instead, you had to contact Tom and make a fuss.
See, Grandma thinks so too, right? What about you, Grandpa?
Well.
See.
I'm not in the wrong.
Angela became more assertive, feeling she had an ally. Hey, Grandma, say something to them too.
You're making Angela out to be the villain too much. You need to be kinder. And Tom, you've changed since marrying Susan. You used to be such a kind boy. It's all because you married this woman. If it were like this, I should have taken Angela in. What are you talking about? Stop saying strange things. I've always been like this. I just say no to what's wrong and bad. Aren't you the one misunderstanding? What did you say?
And the argument began again. The thought crossed my mind that none of this would have happened if Tom and I hadn't gotten married. But I quickly dismissed such thoughts from my mind. Complaining about my marriage with Tom won't change anything. It's time to address why we called the in-laws here. I interrupted the conversation to ask Angela a question.
First off,
Hey, Angela.
you've been hiding things from Tom and me, right? Skipping school to hang out, or saying you're too sick for school and then playing games in your room all lively? What are you talking about?
Ignoring my angry mother-in-law, I pulled out my smartphone and displayed a certain photo on the screen.
This is...
The photo was a message exchange between Angela and her grandmother. Angela would report to her grandmother every time she skipped school.
I skipped school again today.
Do you want to come over? Didn't you say there was a dress you wanted? I'll buy it for you.
Really?
Thank you. There were also messages of Angela wheedling money from her grandmother and messages where she insulted me.
I just can't stand Susan. I really don't want to live with her.
Susan, huh?
I understand why you feel that way.
She's all bossy yet can't do anything herself. Exactly.
I want to live with Grandma.
Tom was shocked to see the messages.
You were skipping school. What I do is none of your business. And it's creepy to look through someone's phone like that.
Taking pictures is creepy too. What were you thinking?
That's right. And to make a fuss over something like this. Angela was still a student back then. It's normal for kids to do this.
Angela argued back, and her grandmother defended her.
There's more, right?
In the midst of the chaos, there was one person who remained calm. It was her grandfather.
Yes.
Everyone's gaze shifted to him suddenly. Yes. The grandfather was the person, besides me, who wanted to settle this situation.
What do you mean? I was the one who sent the message photos to Susan. I also told her about Angela's visits, what I bought for her, all sorts of things.
I nodded at my father-in-law's words. The atmosphere in the room suddenly froze. They probably never thought my father-in-law was in cahoots with me.
Why would you do such a thing? You loved Angela, didn't you? I do think she is dear to me. But at some point, I couldn't keep up with you and Angela anymore. I think it was when you paid for Angela's driving school fees without consulting anyone that I felt it was too much.
My father-in-law continued to express his grievances towards his wife and Angela.
Too extravagant with money, overly indulging Angela, not listening to me no matter how much I advised. I had reached my limit. But why contact Susan about it?
There wasn't a particular reason.
But Susan was also troubled by Angela and Mother, so I thought maybe I could help somehow.
Perhaps I could change our situation as well. He clutched his smartphone and spoke.
You! What have you done on your own? Making it seem like Mother and Angela are the villains.
That's right.
From my perspective, you two are the wrongdoers. Using the money I earned recklessly, always complaining when I advise.
Then, looking straight at his wife, he spoke again.
Divorce me. I've reached my limit. I can't be involved with you two anymore. If we divorce, you can spend all you want on Angela, right? There won't be any complaints from me anymore. What? That way of saying it. Isn't that too harsh? Hey, Grandma. Absolutely. And what? Divorce. Just thrown at me like that. Be quiet. Haven't I listened to you all this time? Just grant me this last wish. Please.
My father-in-law, tears streaming down his face, desperately pleaded. From this scene, it was clear how much he had reached his breaking point.
If you wanted a divorce, you could have just said it normally. Why here?
If I had said it normally, would you have listened? If it were just the two of us, would you have accepted it? I don't think so. For once, my mother-in-law fell silent at his question.
Just divorce me, please. And leave the house.
After hesitating, my mother-in-law glared at him sharply.
Fine. I'll leave that house. Tom, so you know, from today onwards, I'll be.
No way. After accepting the divorce, she immediately turned to Tom. But Tom rejected her request. Of course. Why would she think she could stay in this situation?
Absolutely not. Who would let you stay in this house? Wait. You can't listen to your mother's request.
I can't.
After all the trouble you've caused. Maybe it's time you started sorting things out yourself.
My mother-in-law, clearly not expecting to be refused by her own son, was wide-eyed with surprise. But then she became furious and started raising her voice.
Fine. Everyone does as they please anyway. You'll get your wish, I'll divorce and leave the house. Oh, and how about it, Angela? You said you wanted to live with Grandma, right?
Angela was taken aback by the sudden proposal. But she quickly brightened up and said, yes. I want to live together. Neither Tom nor I tried to stop them. Finally, we could have a peaceful life. I felt more relief than sadness. Afterward, my in-laws divorced, and Angela began living with her grandmother. I assumed they were probably living freely and happily together. But about a month after they started living together, I received a call from her grandmother.
Susan, please, can you take Angela back?
Why?
Aren't you getting along well? How could we be? She is spending wildly, she might use up all my pension. She doesn't work or do anything, just keeps reducing my money.
It made me wonder if she knew what she was getting into when she decided to live with Angela.
Look, surely Angela would be better off living with her parents, right?
What are you saying now? You were the one giving her money freely and the one who initiated living together.
I think the answer was clear when Tom and I didn't stop Angela from leaving with you. Answer.
If Angela heard this conversation, she would be hurt. But now, it's not my problem anymore.
Tom and I were at our wits' end with Angela. She doesn't listen, doesn't work, just lives as she pleases and constantly complains. You must be facing the same issues now. Honestly, when I heard you were taking Angela, I was relieved. We wouldn't be troubled by her anymore. No way!
So, we definitely won't take Angela back.
You'll get the same response from Tom.
Goodbye.
Wait a minute!
I hung up without listening further and set the phone to block her calls. Since then, I haven't received any direct contact from her. I don't know the details of what happened to her and Angela afterward. From Tom's father, who still keeps in touch, I heard they are constantly arguing. Mostly about money. It seems Tom's mother and Angela are struggling, but it's not our duty to help them. They have been doing as they pleased all this time. A part of me wants them to experience some hardship. Currently, Tom and I are living a peaceful life. Being happy without doing anything special feels incredibly good. I hope we can continue living like this. Imagining a future with Tom, I smiled gently.